Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be around the world, and welcome to Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. So glad that you are here with us today. Every Thursday, we open the doors to the virtual office and let you come in and ask whatever you would like to about business, about projects, about anything that you have questions about in your web design business working with clients. Uh, We'll really enjoy this opportunity and glad that you are all here. We have a number of things to talk about as we get started. The first of which is our focus article of the week. This was just published a few days ago, the 19th. So that was what, Tuesday of this week. It's big news. This is the second annual Equalize Digital WordPress Page Builder Accessibility Comparison. That's a mouthful. But you may be familiar with the folks over at Equalize Digital. They have been done quite a good job of making a name for themselves as one of the most respected accessibility companies in the WordPress space. They've done a lot of significant work, and we certainly appreciate them. And if this is the second year, they've taken a look at the WordPress page builders that are out there and done an accessibility comparison. And it's worth taking a look at because accessibility is one of those things that as agency owners, we need to be aware of and looking at and designing toward. And if the tools make it easier for us to build accessible websites, that's even better. If you've ever done any kind of accessibility remediation or looked into it, you know just how big of a job that can be. So using the right tool set out of the box is really important. And so there are, 19 different builders that they compared this year. And this is our friend Amber Hines who did all this heavy lifting. It's a lot. It is a lot of data here. I can't imagine how long it took her to do all of these comparisons. So one thing that I will notice, there's a couple that I'm not even familiar with in here. I just basically heard of. Green Shift is fairly new, I believe. Grade is definitely a new builder. It's a full site editing compatible theme slash block package. And so there is a mix here of block editor page builders and traditional page builders, which I don't know. I guess you could call those all page builders. I really see them as separate. Like there are block systems and there are page builders. That's just me, though. So you'll notice that there's a pretty good combination of both block systems and traditional page builders. And thank you. I am not sharing my screen. Maybe that will be helpful. How's that? Sorry about that. Right here, let's give you the link in the chat for this article if you would like to access it. Sorry about that, folks. And you'll see right here a pretty good bundle of all of the different builders that were evaluated. So she goes through a very, very detailed comparison. I'm just going to skip right down to the results. So here, she basically, this is Amber Hines, who is the CEO of Equalize Digital, and she's breaking down item by item the different components in the different builders. Now, one thing that is important to understand, when you have a builder like Beaver Builder, for example, or Elementor, a lot of these items are really theme-related things. So realize, like when we're evaluating Beaver Builder or Avada or some of these others that have a Divi that have a theme component, the nav element here, for example, comes from the theme, maybe not necessarily the builder. So if, for example, in our stack that I use in my agency, we use Cadence as a theme, and it generally controls at least the header where all the nav is. And then we use Beaver Builder for building out the pages. So as I was just reviewing this with my team earlier today and looking at the things that Beaver Builder does well and Cadence for the nav, it's a pretty good accessible package using those together. So understand how these evaluations are happening and look at your stack and see how it compares. So if you're using another theme and maybe a traditional page builder, you may find that the percentages might actually increase for how it works. So you can kind of scroll through these and look at all the different elements. It's pretty amazing. I'm going to jump all the way down to the bottom for the final totals, and pretty impressive. One theme/block combination stands out above the rest. That is Cadence, that scores 100%. And this is really the second year for both of these evaluations. Cadence has been at the top. That's pretty impressive. We know that team well, and they are very committed to accessibility. Generate press, generate blocks. Grade, this a new-ish entry into the page builder area: Elementor, Greenshift, Beaver Builder, Breakdance Bricks. You see how this kind of goes down to Breezy, which is actually at only a 23% compatibility. So interesting, really, really good data here. And I would encourage you just to take a quick look at your preferred method of site building and compare it to this chart. I'm actually curious. Let's do a quick poll in the chat. What is your stack that you're building websites with? Drop it in there. Theme/builder or a theme/block package? Interesting. A lot of Cadence users. Generate press. Good amount of good amount of Elementor as well. Interesting. Yeah. So good stuff. I would encourage you to take a look at that report. I'll drop the link in again one more time here in case you missed it earlier. Take a look at that, see where your stack measures up. The other thing I want to mention is we do get frequent questions in all of our live streams about the recordings. And so, yes, we record everything, and there's a production team at the other side after the recording is finished that takes the live streams and does some post-production and then puts them over on the hosting.com YouTube channel. You can find all the playlists here. Actually, you can just go to youtube.com, search for hosting.com, click the playlists, and you'll see there are two playlists, one where all the office hours live, and then another one that is called Agency Hub. Now, it's down here, and this is where all of our agency education content goes. So, for example, earlier this week on Tuesday, we did a live stream called Systems Equals Success, and that one's right there waiting on you in the Agency Hub playlist. So if you haven't already subscribed to the hosting.com channel, I would recommend that you do that, and you can get updates whenever those live streams are added. Everything's going to go here in the YouTube channel. So you can always find those recordings that are part of Agency Success, as well as a lot of other good content there at the hosting.com YouTube channel. All right, one more reminder. If you want to ask a question today, the link to do so is there in the chat. And let's go ahead and get started, shall we? First question out of the gate is from Melanie. Hey, Melanie. All right. So if you're just starting with us in office hours, I like to paste the question there on the screen so that if I read it a little too quickly, it's easier to follow. So the question is, I have a client site that's not behind Cloudflare due to an IT company. It's getting spam on several of their forms. I've tried Gravity Form Zero Spam, Clean Talk, Cloudflare Turnstile. I'm starting to think this is human-assisted bots. They come from various IP addresses and locations, as well as different email addresses, and I'm running out of ideas. Any suggestions? Yes, I do. Unfortunately, it's not a technical suggestion. I, too, am getting a lot of what I have decided is human spam, and perhaps some of you are as well. I get regular reminders that there are people in my area who offer cleaning services to different offices. I also get mortgage. Would I like to remortgage my, house or whatever? And these are, if it's bot spam, you're going to be getting tons of it. But if you're only getting maybe one a day or a few a week, it is very likely human spam. So First, Melanie, what is the frequency of these spam submissions? Oh, yeah, Doug, SEO offers is a huge one. So, Melanie, roughly how many of these spam entries are you getting? Wow, Stacy says she gets about 10 a day. All on one website, Stacy? That's a lot. Melanie said she was traveling, so she's in the car. So maybe she's a little slower to be able to respond, or her connection went weird. But I'm assuming it's probably a low volume. And unfortunately, there's not a lot that I'm aware of that can stop this, because it is legitimately a human who can pass a CAPTCHA, and they're using a connection that is likely, not, there's nothing odd about it. It's just a standard connection. Particularly since you don't have the ability to put it behind Cloudflare and maybe filter out countries of origin and or some of those AS numbers where VPNs tend the block of IPs that VPNs tend to use. It's going to be really hard to weed these out, unfortunately. So, yeah, there's not a lot we can do about that, because it is actually legitimate human traffic. And any effort that I've seen to try to mitigate this could actually impact good form submissions. So it's just at this point something we have to live with. Does anybody have any suggestions about this? Clean Talk is one that's mentioned. It is kind of an old school solution. It was built for, back in the day when there were all these forums and message boards and things like that. Clean Talk was built for that, but it can be used on WordPress sites. We went away from it a while ago because we found it to be very heavy-handed and blocking a lot of good traffic, unfortunately. But with Gravity Forms zero spam and Cloudflare rules, it really takes out most of the bot spam. Clean Talk is not going to stop human spam, unfortunately. Yeah, Jeffrey, Gravity Forms does have a geo IP. Those are the sorts of things, though, I would try to handle at the network level, like at the Cloudflare level, so that your site doesn't have to do a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, this is a known issue. I struggle with it too, and unfortunately, I don't know how to stop it. It's just it is part of having a website these days. DCG asks, can they use another CDN and not Cloudflare? So the value of Cloudflare is not so much the CDN as much as it is the firewall rules and the denial of service attack. It's really more of a security help than a performance help. It can help with performance, but it's really more towards security. And I too have some sites, as Melanie was saying, there's an IT company involved. They don't want to hand over DNS control to Cloudflare. And I get that, but it narrows our options in being able to help with some of this bad traffic. Yeah. All right. Next up is Jeffrey. Checking in on some old security practices. I haven't been as diligent with any of these lately, but back in the day, I used to make it a practice of keeping file permissions of htaccess and wp-config at 444, then having to change them back to 644 when a plugin needs access and making sure to set them back again. I also used to move wp-config from the public HTML. I just tested it still does work, but is there any value in that anymore? Are these worth keeping up nowadays? Let's stop and answer that bit of the question. So is it worth doing? Yes. It is helpful in security. Now, if you talk to a security purist who is, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like there are folks that are evangelistic about security in the sense that it has to be done this way. There's no question about this. There's never a reason you shouldn't do this. I think, security is one of those things that, and I'm speaking for myself personally, where we need to reach a place where the usability and security kind of work hand in hand. Do you have to move your WP config to the level up in order to have great security? Not necessarily. Is it better than having it at the public HTML level? Yeah. Do we on the websites that our agency manages do that? No. Does it help to change the file permissions to 444? Yes, because that blocks any access to changing or reading outside of the system itself. Do we do that? Not usually. So that's my personal take on this. Now, if you want absolute highest possible security level for WordPress, it's like you could put a retinal scanner on the front door of your house. You could do that. Do you need it? Probably not. Okay. So take it for what it's worth. Is it better to do this? For security, yes. For usability, maybe not. Follow-up. Are there any new practices like this that are is there 10 things to do after installing WordPress somewhere? That's a great question. Not that I'm aware of, Jeffrey. You can talk if you follow security plugins or security firms in the WordPress space, they frequently talk about things you ought to do. It might be worth doing a live stream on something like that for us in the future as well. Okay, so Jeffrey, does that help? Let's take we got the brain trust here, right? So let's take a quick poll in the chat. How many of you just do like a yes/no for each of these questions? Do you first move your WP config? And second, do you change the file permissions on a WP config and HT access? Like yes/yes or yes/no, that sort of thing. Interesting. Kind of a mixed bag, but mostly no's. Interesting. Well, thank you for that question, Jeffrey. Good stuff. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, the link is in the chat. Next up is Beth Livingston. Hey, Beth. As a fellow Deep South Southerner, okay, when using ChatGPT and you ask a question, and then she asks, do you want me to blank? And the answer is no. Do you, Nathan, in the conversation by saying no, thank you? I find myself wanting to. Okay, I'm going to answer this in two ways. First, I think it's always a good idea to be polite and kind to the AI, because one day the AI will take over the world and I want it to remember me and know that I'm a good guy. Do I do that usually? No, I used to a lot more. However, okay, exactly what Chris said in the chat. It depends on how mad I am at it. Yeah, so it doesn't help to swear at ChatGPT. I will say that. It might make you feel better, but it doesn't help the output quality of the conversation. Shanta says, as a Canadian, I probably apologize. I love it. So generally, I won't say no, thank you. I've gotten a lot more short with my answers with ChatGPT. I will tell you this. How many of you noticed that it seems like ChatGPT has gotten dumber in the last 2 weeks? Have you noticed that? Yeah. Okay. So I have an unproven hypothesis, and some of you may have heard this already. The unproven hypothesis is that whenever a new model is released, ChatGPT gets dumber because they're fiddling around in the background with the computing resources and all the things necessary for this new model. They're switching things over, and it seems like the dust settles after a few weeks. And I've noticed it's better this week than it was last week, for example. I just think it takes time. Like the day or two after the new ChatGPT 5 was released, I was at my wit's end with something. Like, it was horrible. I couldn't get it to finish a conversation. It kept asking, now would you like me to say the rest? And it would start over. And now would you like me to say the rest and start over? It's just crazy. So I think this is something that we see. And again, saying thank you might help, probably not. Swearing at it doesn't help. I can tell you that just based on my own personal experience. Okay, next up is Melanie. Oh, that's the same question. Next up is Vern. Oh my. This is a paste of a log of something. It's an error. Okay. Vern, I don't know how well we're going to do with this, but we shall try. There's many, many things. All right, Vern says, I just got handed this. We have a folder with a bunch of PDF files, and we're using the add-on plugin Cat Folders Document Gallery. I've never heard of that. To display them. As part of this process, the plugin, it seems to generate thumbnails for each document. In my log file, I'm seeing it's an image, an iMagick exception. Vern, I don't know that I'm going to be able to help you much with this. I would start with, what in the world is this plugin? It seems to have a decent user base, and it has, I mean, it's been updated in the recent past. It is creating thumbnails. So the first thing Vern, this is probably a hosting and environment issue. It is probably related. The first thing I would look at is PHP modules, particularly related to iMagick. That may not be turned on in your PHP settings. Where is this site hosted, Vern? Vern is the sysadmin. Oh, it's self-hosted. Okay. So, and you are the sysadmin. So, Vern, have you turned on the PHP model? Have you looked at those PHP modules? That's probably the first. Got it. Have you? Yeah, that would be the first place I would look. And make sure ImageMagick and GD are turned on. Oh, yeah, it got dumped on you. So that's where I would start. It's likely a resource issue, but more probably it's a PHP module issue. So that's where I would start with it. Good luck. All right, next up is class. Oh my. Okay. Woo subscriptions plugin transfer issue. A website had Woo subscriptions installed. The paid plugin need to be transferred to another person to manage it going forward. Transfer went through in WooCommerce, and the plugin now belongs to the new person. But now we're unable to reconnect it on the website. Oh, dear me. Any links in the plugin on the website now only go to purchase a new plan, not activated already purchased plan. We've tried from the account at Woo and enter the correct website URL, but the subscriptions plugin doesn't get activated. Any idea how to get the WooCommerce subscriptions plugin reactivated on the website? Okay, first of all, does anybody else get frustrated with how ridiculously complex the login, WooCommerce, WordPress, that whole back and forth login thing? Does anybody else get frustrated with that? It's possible it's just me. Probably not, though. It is horrible, horrible, horrible. So, yeah, it is ridiculously complicated. And I never remember which login. It's hard. Okay, so if I had to guess, class, have you in WooCommerce logged out, like, because it attaches that logged in state to WordPress, like you're logged in with this account. Have you tried logging out in WordPress and then signing back in? with the WooCommerce login. Okay, yeah. So that's the first thing I would try, class. The second thing is when you say they transferred it, is it a different account that they transferred an existing license to, or did they just like rename the email address and the name of the existing account? Or did they go through like a whole transfer process to get that license in a new account? Okay. So they transferred the license key to the new owner, which means if the website is still logged in as the old owner, it doesn't see a license. I bet you that's your issue. I would just about bet that's going to solve the problem. So give that a shot. All righty. Next up is Beth Livingston. Okay. You've said in the past that you do not normally use a CDN because you believe performance is reduced rather than enhanced. Is that still the case? No, it is not. If not, which are you using? Cloudflare. I have a website in development that's going to have an ungodly number of images, but there are so many choices for CDN. I'm not sure where to turn or even if I should. Okay, yes. So, I mean, it depends on what your goals are, right? Cloudflare by default is going to cache pages and JavaScript and CSS unless you tell it not to. It doesn't cache images. That's an extra add-on plan. It's like $5 a month or whatever. So the question here, Beth, is for this site, I mean, how important is speed to the site? In other words, are you trying to rank high for fuzzy searches in Google? And by fuzzy searches, I mean furniture stores near me, for example. Yeah. Not, in other words, a search that is not the name of the company, but it's like project management courses and you want yours to show up. Yes, what? Yes, you're trying to rank. Yes. Okay. So, speed can become an issue. And there's so many factors in this, Beth. Like, are the images optimized well on the website? Is it, or do you have some sort of image optimizing plugin that you're using that can mitigate some of this? It's really going to depend on the use case. And the issue is not how many images are on the site, it's how the images are set up and compressed and what hosting platform you're using and so forth. Now, you can, in Cloudflare, turn on Cloudflare. Well, there's two things. For about $10 a month for Cloudflare APO, which is automated platform optimization, and then also Cloudflare images, which is roughly about $5 a month. You can turn all of that on and just let Cloudflare handle it, and you don't have to worry about it. Let's see. I believe I'm just going to have to Google it. Yeah, here. Yeah. So here, like right here is where you can turn on transformations, and that will allow you to it'll start to push all your images over to Cloudflare, so they're hosted out of there. You can also turn on automated platform optimization, which is under speed for your domain. Somewhere. This is by far the simplest way to do this. Everything is slow today for some reason. Right here, the automatic platform optimization, that just handles everything for you. It does quite well. So Beth, you're saying that you're using Short Pixel and they have a CDN. Yes. So the bad thing about WordPress plugin, image plugin CDNs is that you have to make a choice to use them or Cloudflare because you have to change your DNS. So I would use Cloudflare if you're going to use Cloudflare for other things already. So you can turn on APO and you can turn on Cloudflare images, and it's just going to take care of it for you. Yep. And in general, it's going to give you pretty good speed as long as your hosting is respectable. Okay, next up is Paul. Hey, Paul. Yes, we can ask security plugins. We'll try. Each time a client logs into his website, he gets locked out because someone or something has tried too many times to hack his account. Other than waiting 15 minutes, what is the best way to set this up for him? Interesting. So for many security plugins, and this one in particular, being solid security, they're going to look at two different things, IP address and then the actual username itself. So a few little tricks you might try is, how is this person logging in? You can usually see in the logs, is it by an email address or is it by a username? And so what you might try is just changing the username or changing the email address or forcing login to be only with email address and just see if that helps. The IP is a little more difficult. Yeah, you can whitelist his IP, as Sue is mentioning, but it's probably, if it's getting some sort of an automated attack, it is probably related to the username / email address and not the IP itself that's getting locked out. Have you noticed, Paul, when you see a lockout, is the IP that's getting locked out, is that the same IP as the client? It's probably not. The other thing is probably, Paul, this is not behind Cloudflare, is it? Because in general, yeah, put it behind Cloudflare and this is going to stop happening most likely. So if you put it behind Cloudflare with good firewall rules, it's going to stop these automated hits and login attempts. So you could try changing the email address or username also, as because then it's going to just not be present anymore. So you're saying it is on Cloudflare, then I would look at my firewall rules and make sure that they're good and blocking a lot of the, if you're using Cloudflare rules that have been recommended elsewhere, Troy Glancy's list or something I've done in the past, then it should be blocking most of that. If it's still not blocking it, I would try changing the username and or the email address. Possibly even deleting that user altogether in favor of a new user you create for the client with a different username and a different email address. And I bet you that'll work. All right. Does that help you, Paul? Great. All right. Next up is Melanie. Melanie is investigating plugins. I'm canceling my web designer's toolkit, unlimited sites, which expires in November. I'm comparing security, backup, and automation, multi-site management. What are my top choices? Okay. This is Melanie Martin. Hey, Melanie. All right. So great question. This is a great time for me to talk about our upcoming live stream on our agency success blueprint. Because of what we're going to talk about in that upcoming live stream. I'm going to drop that link bundle again in the chat. Now it's on September 30th, so we're still about a month away from this. But what we're going to do in this live stream is talk about how to set up a hosting.com virtual dedicated server to be what you use to host your client sites. And the advantage there is you will be able to see backups, for example, handled at the server level with Jet Backup that's included in the hosting.com virtual servers. And that server-based backup can output to a remote destination like Dropbox and Google Drive or S3 or those sorts of things. It's better to have a non-WordPress backup solution just for many reasons. Reliability and system resources and all of those things. Have that running at the server level rather than a WordPress plugin. So backup, definitely try that at the server level. We'll be talking about that, as well as, what are the ways that you should configure a server to work as a host for multiple client sites that are run on that server. So we're going to be talking about that coming up in that live stream on September the 30th. The security plugins. Here's the thing about WordPress security plugins. We're still sort of at the stage where themes were a long time ago, where they would just try to throw in the kitchen sink as a feature set to have the most full featured security plugin. And what you end up having is feature bloat, things that don't need to belong in a WordPress security plugin. So when you look at security plugins, here's the evaluation criteria that I would use. I would look at, does it protect WordPress well at the application level? And what I mean by that is a good or the approach to WordPress security that I favor is one that it's not trying to do malware scans or anything like that. It's looking at your themes and plugins to make sure that they are not vulnerable, like from a vulnerability list perspective. It's looking at your users to make sure their passwords aren't compromised. It's hardening a little better, or providing better login options for the WordPress user experience, like passkeys or two-factor authentication, those sorts of things. That's application level security. And that's really where the WordPress plugins need to be living. When you try to do virus scan or like malware file system scanning and firewall rules and things like that at the WordPress plugin level, you generally end up slowing the site down, because those are things that really ought to be handled elsewhere. So I talk about a 3-layer approach to security, a network level at the DNS level, like with Cloudflare, where you are able to put firewall rules in place so that a lot of the bad traffic is weeded out before it ever gets to your server. Then you need good server level security. And that's where your file level malware scanning ought to be happening. So for example, at hosting.com, if you get one of our new virtual private servers or virtual dedicated servers, it includes Immunify 360, which is a scanner that just checks for malware on your WordPress site. Now, all of that, and that's where that sort of function ought to live. A WordPress plugin shouldn't be doing file level scanning, because it's easy for malware to thwart that and get involved in that process and intercept anything that it might find that's vulnerable. So again, and then the other stuff, the application level security, that's where, for example, Solid Security with a patch stack is able to identify vulnerable themes and plugins and let you know about that, protects users. And there are a number of other lighter security plugins that are similar to that. So, but that's what I would be looking at in a good WordPress security plugin. And as far as multi-site management, there's a ton of options out there. And basically, you just need something that's going to let you run your updates dynamically, right? Or so that you can update many things at once. There's lots of good options for that. Paul is asking, do I have a virtual dedicated server? I have a dedicated server that I've had with, formerly A2 Hosting, which is now hosting.com, and we'll be upgrading to a virtual dedicated server later this year when our 2-year commitment to that dedicated server runs out. So, Sue, does that help? All right, well, let's move on to the next question. Again, if you have a question, use the link in the chat. We're down to the final 2 questions of the hour that are in the list. So get a question in if you have one. Next up is Vern. Hey, Vern. This looks like it's the same question. PDF files. Okay, was this the same question from earlier, Vern? Aside from this log is 11 million lines long. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a lot. All right. Final question of the hour. When I first began with iThemes, aka Solid WP, I used their themes in conjunction with the builder. I have since updated the builder to either Elementor or Cadence. If I leave Solid WP, will I lose access to those themes using a child theme setup? Is this a question for Solid? Yes, that's definitely a question for Solid. But what I'll tell you is simply by not renewing a plugin or theme license doesn't mean you can't use that plugin or theme anymore. Usually, some of them actually have started requiring a sign-in to access features. Um, I don't think you'll find that's the case with those old iThemes themes. You'll want to ask for sure, but you definitely lose access to updates and support if you choose not to renew a license. But yeah, there are some plugins that make you sign in and validate your license, even to access the settings of the plugins. And that's not technically a violation of the GPL either. The GPL says they can do that, but you could also go in and remove that component if you know how to do that in the code so that you have access to all the things. But yeah, generally speaking, most WordPress plugins that require a license aren't going to lock you out once the license expires. So Melanie, does that answer your question? Yeah, great. Now, I will tell you that if you're using those old builder themes, they haven't been receiving security updates for quite a while. So that's definitely something you're going to want to replace. It's time to probably rebuild those sites anyway. That being said, I think we still have a couple of old iThemes builder sites floating around somewhere. All right. That is the no, Jeffrey just dropped in a question. We do have time, folks. So if you have a question to ask, drop that in the chat. Drop the link to ask that question. I just dropped into the chat. Corey Miller is astounded that there are still some iThemes builder sites floating around out there. Indeed. Yeah, we still have one or two, I think, with clients who just won't upgrade. All right. Jeffrey, do you use client? Oh, this is a great question. Do you use client reports for your maintenance plans? The ones that go out every month and say, we did so many backups, protected your site against attacks. What do you do? If you do, what are the items you report? I use Main WP and they have that as a service, but I haven't decided if it's worth setting up. Great question. So, Jeffrey, the answer to that question is no, we don't send those reports out. I'm not against it at all. We just have never done it, and I've never had a client ask for it. It's never been an issue. So I think it's good. I don't think it's bad. We've just never invested the time to set those up in my agency because they haven't been needed. So, okay, let's do another quick poll of the brain trust, shall we? How many of you send out these sorts of monthly-ish, whatever reports? Yes or no? Interesting. Mostly no. Interesting. Yeah, so that's probably, if I had to guess, 85, 90% no. Very, very interesting. So what we found is like, this is big picture business topic, right? So clients generally don't hire because of the details. They just don't. Clients generally hire because they trust you. They like you. They want somebody they can depend on that's not going to talk down to them. that understands their business, that wants to help them be successful. And they know that if something goes wrong, they can reach out to you and you will be helpful. That being said, that's why I don't think any of our clients have really ever asked for those kinds of reports. It, for them, the issue isn't we protected you from 8 million, site exploit attempts. The issue is the site has worked. It continues to work. It does what we want. And if there's a problem, we know who to call. That's why clients buy. That's why maintenance plans are not about the details. Like gigabytes of storage space and, numbers of this or that. Care plans, WordPress management is about trust. 100%. It's a trust and peace of mind decision. So am I against sending reports? Of course not. It's just not something we've ever invested time in, because that's not the reason that clients buy. Anyway, you didn't ask for that, but there you go. All righty. Yeah, I'll tell you that in all the years of doing coaching and having those conversations, inevitably, somebody will have a conversation about, hey, I've got this new service, and this is how, it's like, this is kind of the sales page or whatever, and it's 8,000 statistics on this page. And I'm like, no, this is not, nobody, if you're trying to sell website care plans and you put how many gigabytes of storage space this includes, you can do it. And there might be 1% of people who actually care about that, but that's not what the sales pitch for management and most of our services involve. It's like, how do we, what is this need that the client has? And how can we meet the need in such a way that they know it's handled, they can trust us, and we just take care of it? That's the issue. When we get lost in the weeds of megabytes and gigabytes and numbers of this and that, that's how we buy, because we're geeks. But generally, that's not why our clients are buying. Okay. Stepping off the soapbox. Next is Beth. All right, Beth. Curious as to what e-commerce solution others are using, if not WooCommerce. Well, isn't that interesting? We are not using any e-commerce solution that is not WooCommerce. That was a backwards way of saying we're only using WooCommerce on client sites. Anybody else using something else? I understand that SureCart is quite good. Well, first of all, e-commerce is nebulous because a membership site is e-commerce. But if we're talking about a storefront, right, that's really what we're after here, right? I'm selling items with a cart online. SureCart is, from what I understand, is quite good, unless you need shipping and that sort of thing. Magento, look, Magento is a great solution if you have the technical tolerance for it. Shopify is an excellent solution. It's costly, and it is a SaaS, so you're kind of locked into what they've got. Okay, so Beth, was there any other nuance to this you were after? It really depends on, like, the factor is there going to be shipping? And do I have to calculate shipping rates and tax rates? You're pretty much locked into WooCommerce at that point. Oh, non-local to WordPress. Thank you, Beth. So a few things. Steve just mentioned it. BigCommerce is quite good. BigCommerce, it'll embed. Another one that's been around forever is Equid. I used those guys for years, even before WooCommerce. It's been around since the dark ages, and it's quite good. So, Beth, if you're looking for a non-WordPress solution, yeah, look at BigCommerce or Equid. Chris says Squarespace actually has a pretty good e-commerce solution. I haven't seen that. All right. A few more questions have come in. Next is Marcia. Hey, Marcia. Last year, you mentioned a new site that offered a variety of icons. I purchased, but can't seem to find them now. Oh, yeah. That is Icon Buddy. I love this. I've been deeply into this site in the last few weeks because we're building an icon heavy site. This is one of the best purchases I've ever made. They ran like a $49 lifetime deal. They still have lifetime access. Oh, look, it's still $49. Okay, if you want icons, this is a no-brainer. Seriously, just drop the money because it is so good. There are 250,000 icons. And the great thing about it is like you can, let's see if what I can do at the free level. Yeah, so right here, you can download various versions of it at different sizes, but you can also edit it and change the color right here and then download it. And you have like here's the actual, it's so good. Yeah, we're deeply using this right now on a project that we're about finished with. So yeah, iconbuddy.com. Best $50 I've spent in a long time. Next up is Paul. In WHM, is it possible to see the full specs of a server? It's a good question, Paul, and I don't know that I have the answer immediately. And I don't have a WHM I can log in and show you right now. I believe there is a it's one of the system screens where I do believe it's going to show you. Now, here's the other thing. It's so virtual servers are not like you're not looking at the actual. It's an Intel Xeon blah 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 or an AMD whatever. It's going to be virtual cores, and that's really where you want to be these days. Is a cloud-based virtual where they can expand. So that's what you want to look for, and it's not like the old classic, you know, specific processor name. It's going to be an amount of virtual cores. You definitely want to look at memory. You definitely want to look at disk space, and particularly what kind of disks are involved. Like, is it NVMe SSDs, like the good boxes at server.com are? Next up is Dave. We'll be talking through some of this, Paul, by the way, in that agency blueprint live stream coming up in about a month. All right, Dave. Dave, are you here? Yes. Dave says, I have a website where I've changed the URL from Kensington Church in Kensington NH Church to Kensington CC. The site is hosted at SiteGround. I followed a ChatGPT checklist to get this done. Didn't even think to see if SiteGround had instructions too, but at any rate, things work good. So I have one question. ChatGPT said to use SiteGround Search and Replace or install Better Search and Replace. I used SiteGround, but then did a dry run of Better Search Replace and found thousands of records that were not changed. Given that things are working, should I run the Better Search Replace too? Okay, so this is dangerous, Dave, but probably yes. I don't know how SiteGround's Search and Replace tool works, but if you're using Better Search Replace, it's going to look for all the occurrences of the thing in the database. Wow, it's slow today. This is weird. And and as is mentioned in the chat, backup, of course, backup. Let's just drop in Better Search Replace. Oh, I'm using the Fair plugin on this side. I wonder if that's altered the way this looks because it is a little different. Direct install. What is that? This must be related to the Fair plugin. Interesting. Look at that. That deserves some exploration. All right, so My goodness, it's slow. So Dave, you're trying to replace this with this, and there's no wwws involved in this, right? Is that right, Dave? So when you search for that domain and replace with the other, and you are highlighting all of the tables, that should be fine to run. Just make sure you have a database backup before you do this. And if it's finding thousands of things, yeah, it's going to be important, because it could be that what it's been finding are like links to media files and actual linked pages and posts and so forth within your content that, for whatever reason, SiteGround's tool didn't pick up. Yeah. So this is probably safe. Logs. It could be, if depending on what you are logging and how, that old domain could be in those logs. Yeah. Vern, that's a good point. It could be that that the dot is commented out with a slash, but probably that search here is going to fix your problem, Dave. Just make sure you back up. Okay, we've dropped in a list of what it found in the chat. Interesting. Yes, there's a bunch of WordFence files. Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about this is that if nothing's showing up, at least from what I can see, nothing's showing up in your posts or post meta tables. And that's probably the most important thing, because that's where content that's shown on the front end of the site would have showed up. So it's from the front end, it's probably okay. Run it just for the sake of running it. And these do look like a lot of log files. Yeah. All righty. Final question of the day is from Paul. We are right up at 2:00 Central. Okay, off topic. I've been getting a lot of text messages to my phone with this. Hello, yes. Hey, let's go to that restaurant. You and my, yes. What is the purpose of this? Yeah, so the purpose of that is to validate this is a good number with someone who will respond. And if you respond to one of those text messages, they put you on a list of known good sell numbers that they can then sell for a higher amount to the highest bidder, right? So don't respond to those things. I'm also getting 8 million political messages because it's a political season in my area right now. And don't you just love that? Yeah, don't respond to those text messages, no matter how much you want to talk to them, Paul. All right, everybody. This has been fun as usual. Lots of great questions today. Let me just mention that next week is WordCamp US, and both I and Corey Miller and Katie will be with us there as well. They're at WordCamp US. We will still have office hours. I'll be doing that from the hotel room, so hopefully we won't have any issues there. And probably we'll be able to patch in Corey Miller from the floor at WordCamp US. So that could be pretty fun as well. So maybe Corey can do like a walk around with the phone on Zoom. That'll be a lot of fun. But we will have office hours next week, same regular time, Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll see you back next time. It'll be office hours next Thursday from Portland, Oregon at WordCamp US here on agencysuccesswithhosting.com, where we go further together.